At the turn of the century, the NFL saw a new breed of running back in LaDainian Tomlinson. Small in size, but elusive and multi-dimensional.
Tomlinson skirts it outside. See ya in the end zone, baby. Touchdown, LT.
With the 5th pick of the 2001 NFL Draft, the Chargers brought LT to sunny Southern California. He'd go on to be selected in 5 Pro Bowls, hold 2 rushing titles, and win the 2006 NFL MVP award.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting LaDainian Tomlinson for enshrinement into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
He's now a Hall of Fame running back, forever cementing his place in history. This is the story of LaDainian Tomlinson and the journey from a small football town in Texas to the elite halls of Canton, Ohio.
People ask me, who do you get your work ethic from? It was my mom. The journey and her influence has been as good as any kid can ask for. You know, not only just supporting in my football career, but also supporting in life.
Oh, he is a mama's boy, always has been since our first date at IHOP, and he talked about his mom the whole time.
My mom provided for me. She was a huge impact in my life, and if it wasn't for her, I certainly wouldn't be here.
She's his rock. She's his spiritual leader, everything. He leans on his mom a lot. When anyone speaks of LaDainian, you always hear them speak about how great of a man he is off the field before they ever bring up anything he's done on the field. And she single-handedly, honestly, is the reason for that.
LaDainian was born in 1979 in a small town in Texas south of Dallas. Football was already in his blood.
Even when he was playing just neighborhood ball, you know, even the bigger kids, he was outrunning them. He had hands to catch, and when he played basketball, same thing, baseball, same thing. So he was just a natural athlete. I never will forget when he came home with a piece of paper from the Boys and Girls Club, and he said, Mom, they got a football for little people like me. And he was 9 then.
I guess it was kind of born in me. It was bred in me of being a football player at a young age. In fact, I remember playing with my older brothers and cousins in the front yard. And man, I tell you, they used to put it on me. I mean, they held nothing back. Those types of lessons, I think, kind of built who I am today, kind of built the player and the person that I am today.
When he focused in on football, that was it. But all through school, high school, and the whole thing, he played every sport he could get his hand on.
You know, growing up in that small town kind of inspired a dream of mine to make it to the very top level, and that's the National Football League.
Achieving his dream of playing in the NFL wouldn't come easy. Playing time in the Lone Star State is never a guarantee.
If you can make it playing football in Texas, you can make it anywhere. You truly can.
Tomlinson would be relegated to the fullback and linebacker positions until his senior year.
He wasn't as happy, I'll put it like that, but he loved football.
You needed to earn the right to carry the football. And so for me, I had to block first. I had to block for the older guys that came before me. Finally, I remember my high school coach going into my senior year, calling me into the coach's office and said, hey, you have done everything that we asked you to do, son. You've been a selfless teammate, and this year, it's gonna be your year. We're gonna let you play running back.
Offers came from programs around the country, but LT would choose to play college ball close to home.
He had quite a few letters. He flew out to some of the teams, some of the colleges and things, but when he came home, you know, I just believe he had Texas into his heart. So, because the last 2, he came down to North Texas and TCU, and so he chose TCU.
Went there as really a young man and honestly a kid. You know, a kid going into college not knowing what to expect. I remember initially winning the running back job my sophomore year, and my college coach called me in the office. He said, I'm sorry to do this to you, but the fullbacks are not playing very well on this team right now, and I think you can play fullback for us for a little while. And he asked me to move to fullback. And so I started out my sophomore year starting at fullback. Half the season go by, and I've had enough of fullback. And I go into Coach's office, I said, Coach, I'm sorry, I'm transferring. I got to get the heck out of here. I can't play fullback. And he said, well, I'm glad you came in because we're gonna put you back at tailback. You're not gonna play fullback anymore. And so from that point on, I stayed at tailback the rest of my 2.5 years, led the nation in rushing my junior and senior year.
In addition, LT was awarded the Doak Walker Award, was a Heisman Trophy finalist, and holds records in nearly every rushing category for TCU. On the night before the 2001 NFL Draft, the Chargers traded the first pick to Atlanta, allowing them to draft Michael Vick, while holding hope LT would be available at number 5. After a stellar collegiate career at Texas Christian University, LaDainian Tomlinson looked to the next chapter of his boyhood dream of making the NFL. Many experts believed he was the top running back in the 2001 draft.
Going into the draft, I was rated like the 3rd running back. You go through all these pre-workouts, and I rose on the top of the board after my workouts.
The Chargers had the first pick, and the consensus number 1 was quarterback Michael Vick from Virginia Tech. Perhaps it was fate, stepping in to help LT to the Chargers.
When we got to the draft, Michael Vick came to me and said, we're not gonna get a deal done with the Chargers. They're gonna trade the pick and the Chargers are gonna draft you. Now, I didn't talk to the Chargers the whole pre-draft process. I've never had a conversation with the Chargers, so I'm thinking, Michael Vick, you're right, you're full of it.
We traded back, and he came in to me on Friday night and said we made a trade. And I said, well, where are we at? He said, number 5. And I said, well, what do you think? He said, well, you never know for sure. There's this running back out of TCU that he said, he's special. That's the word John Butler used to describe LT, special. And he said, if we can get him, he's going to make a difference on our team.
Across the ticker reads, Chargers trade first pick to the Atlanta Falcons. And I stood up in my bed thinking, holy cow, I think I'm going to San Diego.
With the Chargers on the clock with the 5th pick, LT's dream of playing football in the NFL came true.
And the phone rings, and it's the late John Butler. And he said, LaDainian, he said, we're going to draft you here. And he said, we're looking forward to having you with the Chargers. And he put on the head coach and running back coach and the owner, Dean Spanos, and at that time I knew it was for real, and it was on from there.
Tomlinson made an immediate impact. In his rookie season, LT ran for over 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns.
I couldn't have had better teammates, especially in that running back room. Terrell Fletcher, Fred McCrary, those guys really helped my adjustment into the National Football League.
Obviously his ability on the field speaks for itself. It's incredible. His work ethic and everything he did in the locker room and how he performed on the field set a basis and something that, our players, other players could look at. He earned the respect of the other players.
LaDainian's career was off and running. In his 2nd and 3rd years, he combined for over 3,300 yards and 27 scores.
Plows his way towards the goal line, keeps on moving. There he is! Touchdown, LT!
And he pulled another trick out of his sleeve.
A little pitch back to LT. He's looking to throw towards the end zone. Gates, got it! Touchdown!
He could throw the football.
LT doing it all. Is there anything LT cannot do?
In 2005, he became just the 7th player to ever run, catch, and throw a touchdown in one game. But bigger things were still yet to come from the Texan the following season. In the 2006 campaign, LT dominated like no other player in the history of the sport.
Tomlinson off the left side. Tomlinson sidesteps. Hello, history books.
LT rushed for a record that still stands today. 28 touchdowns in a single season, including 2 games with 4 of them. He tallied over 1,800 yards and caught over 500 more, while adding 3 more scores from the air. Tomlinson's 31 trips to the end zone led the Chargers to a franchise best 14-2 record before being named the league's most valuable player.
That 2006 year was such a whirlwind. I feel like we never took the time to be still and just, soak it all in.
Watching each milestone, as he broke each record after each record, it was incredible. It was almost surreal because it was like, what record did he break now? And are you kidding me? And it was just like one after the other.
In addition to his MVP honors, LT was given the Walter Payton Man of the Year award for his excellence in charitable giving and volunteering in the community, showing LaDainian cared for more than just football.
Off the field, he was equal. He was equal to what he did on the field. His community involvement, how he cares about people in general, and what he wants to do about it. I mean, this is a man who gets engaged in the community.
LaDainian grew up idolizing Walter Payton as a child, so it's only fitting that the two of them share a special bond, despite the fact that they never met face to face.
To win the award, to have that trophy at my house, it really is something that I'm really proud of. I mean, I will hold on to that for a long time. And the other thing is, I can say that Walter Payton and myself are the only two guys to ever win that trophy and the MVP in the same year.
And now the two of them will forever be enshrined in the NFL Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. LaDainian Tomlinson's career as a Charger speaks for itself, averaging nearly 1,400 yards a year and finding the end zone 153 times in a Charger uniform. The 2006 MVP was a lock for Canton, Ohio. In his first year of eligibility, LT was voted into the Hall of Fame.
And I'm so happy, overjoyed. So many different emotions are running through my body.
Hearing his name announced as a Hall of Fame inductee at the Super Bowl was the beginning of a roller coaster ride for LaDainian, one that wouldn't stop until August in Canton, when he'd finally get to put on the gold jacket.
I think when I put on the gold jacket, because I think that's when it'll kind of start to hit home and it'll get so real for me.
He's here in Canton, he's getting a yellow jacket, so I think this is the ultimate, the epitome of what it means to play football. When I think about how hard he's worked from the time he was, very small, to now, it's almost indescribable. But I'm just so proud of him, I'm so happy for him.
When it came time for LT to decide on who he wanted to present him in the Hall of Fame, the choice was clear. The same man that led him through the trenches and helped him achieve his greatness on the field, fullback Lorenzo Neal.
Since I played fullback, I know the sacrifice you have to be a selfless player, to block for other guys to get the credit, and those guys are gonna get the credit. Lorenzo was phenomenal. I felt like it was only right that the guy that blocked for me on all those touchdown runs, those record-breaking runs, that he should, in my biggest moment going into the Hall of Fame, he should be the one to lead me into the Hall of Fame.
He said, "Oh, let me talk to you," and pulled me to the side and getting to talk. I'm just talking about a career and just talking about how grateful he was to be selected to the Hall of Fame, and just to, he was honored, and it was that moment. And then continued to talk, and he said, "I want you to do it." I said, "Do what?" He said, "I want you to introduce me." And I was like, "You sure? Me?" And I was just taken back. I was humbled, I was shocked, I was surprised, I was speechless. And you just have a man who says, "No, I want you to do it." And he could have picked hundreds, thousands of people that could have done it, that probably had a huge impact on his life. Great Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Antonio Gates, 3 Hall of Famers that probably gonna be first ballot, and chose me.
LT is the 32nd running back to enter the Hall of Fame in the modern era. He is second only behind one man in touchdowns on that list, a man LT watched and idolized growing up near Dallas.
I grew up in Texas, so I was a big Cowboy fan, and I was a huge Emmitt Smith fan. And so he's kind of my guy that I've gotten to know over the years, and we've become pretty good friends. And so having a chance to spend some time with him and join the class with him, being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, man, it's truly an honor.
Fate has a way of surprising a lot of us, because we never know when you may have an encounter with someone that can truly influence or impact your life.
Hall of Fame weekend is a time for legends of the game and fans alike to celebrate the game of football. Thursday begins with an autograph session from the class of 2017, followed by the Hall of Fame game that kicks off the NFL preseason. Friday is the Gold Jacket ceremony, where the enshrinees receive their symbols of their exclusive fraternity. But Saturday is the highlight of the weekend. The enshrinement ceremony features speeches from the class of 2017 and is when their bronze statues will be revealed to take their place among the greatest of all time.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting LaDainian Tomlinson for enshrinement into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Saturday night is the signature event of the Hall of Fame weekend. The class of 2017 takes their place among football's elite during the enshrinement ceremony. But earlier in the day, the city hosts a massive parade to celebrate the event. More than 200,000 spectators will fill the streets of downtown Canton to welcome the new class and returning members of the Hall of Fame. It's a time when former foes get to reflect on their careers.
He was the ultimate running back. I mean, there's a reason why he broke as many records as he did.
Man, it's special. You know, LT's a hell of a back. I knew he was going in, so, you know, to be able to join him and be his classmate, it's awesome. We're always going to be connected in that way. I'm a San Diego kid. Obviously, he's a Charger. So when he came into this league, I had a chance to watch him for a long time, and I appreciate his work.
And when old friends can reunite.
But with LT, they didn't hit a home run. The organization hit a grand slam, and they both won. And today is an exciting day for me, exciting day for LaDainian. This whole week's been exciting for me. He was an unbelievable running back. He's an unbelievable citizen. He's an unbelievable role model, arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest running back that played the game. Lightning in the bottle. Couldn't have went to a better place.
All that was left to do was to deliver the speech, something LT had been working on for months prior, and had so closely guarded that no one, not even his family, knew what he was gonna say.
If this was my last day on earth, and this my final speech, this is the message I'll leave with you. The story of a man I never met, my great-great-great-grandfather George. 170 years ago, George was brought here in chains on a slave ship from West Africa. His last name, Tomlinson, was given to him by the man who owned him. Tomlinson was the slave owner's last name. What extraordinary courage it must have taken for him to rebuild his life after the life he was born to was stolen. How did he reclaim his identity, his dignity, when he had no freedom to choose for himself? I grew up on the land of a former slave plantation. And although I didn't know this as a child, it is where my great-great-great-grandfather tilled the soil. A few years ago, I visited that same plantation in Central Texas with my family and stood in the slave quarters where he lived. It's now named Tomlinson Hill. My name began with the man who owned my great-great-great-grandfather. Now, it's proudly carried by me, my children, my extended family. People stop me on the street because they know me as LT, the football player. But after football, people have begun to recognize me as LaDainian Tomlinson. Not simply for what I did as a football player, but for who I am as a man. The family legacy that began in such a cruel way has given birth to generations of successful, caring Tomlinsons. I firmly believe that God chose me to help bring two races together under one last name, Tomlinson. I'm of mixed race, and I represent America. Football is a microcosm of America. All races, religions, and creeds living, playing, competing side by side. Thank you very much. Thank you for this honor. God bless you.
LaDainian Tomlinson delivered one of the most captivating and moving speeches in Hall of Fame history. Standing in front of a nationwide audience in his long-awaited gold jacket, LT got to tell his own story in his own words. His children's children will one day be able to see what kind of person he was by the emotion and poignancy of his words that will live on forever. Because of this, the story of a Texas boy who made it to the Great Hall of Fame in Canton will always live on. LaDainian officially reunited with the Chargers this summer as a special assistant to the owner. LT will head the community engagement efforts of the franchise and has already been spreading his message of healthy living, positive self-esteem, and the importance of education to local youth.
You can see where he's looking to the challenge of the second part of his life. He's got a wonderful wife, two wonderful children, and he's done a lot of successful things in his life, and he's looking forward to this next challenge.
It's the next chapter in the story of LaDainian Tomlinson, a story of what it means to be the very best on the field and in the community.